parts I'm going to discuss tonight is how do we interact with our clients before closing and after closing. I think we all do a variety of things. After closing, some people give gifts. Some people do wait 3 days, give a gift or do something. So I'm trying to be a little bit more efficient and reach out than just to our client. So one of the things that I read and talked to a couple of realtors is that when they represent the seller, they get with the seller. Because like when we list a house, some people do 60 to 100 postcards to the neighbors, and they tell them, hey, coming soon or active or for sale or whatever. So one of the things I'm talking with enough people that sort of convinced me that the thing to do to really be effective to contact with your seller, to have a lasting relationship and to get referrals is to have a cookout or some type of dinner at the seller's house before they close. You get a list of the seller's friends, neighbors, however many you want to invite, and you do an invitation, send a postcard, send an email. Postcard would probably be best. And then you ask your title company and your lender to help cough up some bucks for the cost of the event. And what that does, from the people that have done this, the 2 times I tried to have with my client, one of my clients moved to Minnesota. He moved like 3 weeks early, and it was like I couldn't do it there. And then my other client moved to Kentucky right at Christmas time, so I couldn't do it there either. So I've yet to try this out, but I have one coming up in June that I'm going to try out. So the idea is that if you get like 12 of their friends, neighbors, relatives, have a cookout at the house before they actually move out. You meet with what better way of getting an endorsement, a referral, or to know people than to host a lunch, a cookout, a grill out with the seller and their closest friends, and you're there. The lender should be there, and the title agency representative should be there. That what better way to get a referral and to know people and get them to know you? And you could obviously talk about real estate a little bit. You could talk about how great the seller is, and you could just have a discussion like that for 30 minutes to 90 minutes, however long it goes, depending on the weather. In Ohio, it changes every 15 minutes. But the folks that I've heard that do this, obviously they're a little bit warmer, more consistent, having a warmer weather than us. But they have talked about how successful that is about getting referrals. And oftentimes the lender and the title agency picks up the whole tab for a cookout and doesn't cost them, the realtor, anything except to put it together. There's his or her time. So what do you think? Is that something that's doable? What's the pros? What's the cons? What do you think about that as an option? I know there's all 4 of us on here, so.
Well, I'll chime in. So the first thing I thought is, I'm not so sure that everyone would want all their neighbors, but then when you said 10 to 12, I'm like, okay, well, they should be able to find 10 or 12. And as long as you make sure that they don't mess up the house, then.
It's by invitation. That's why you get a list and you mail them a postcard or something like that. What I would hope is we could have it in the garage and they wouldn't have to go to their house, inside their house, unless they have to go to the bathroom, that they don't live real close.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. You don't want the nosy neighbor to come over and just eat all the food and not be there for the real reason.
But if it's by invite and they help you pick the 10 or 12, that makes sense.
Scott, what do you think? Can't hear you. You're muted.
As far as inviting the neighbors, and create an
12
event.
people. Whatever number you want.
Right. I mean, personally, eh, I don't know how it would go. I mean, I kind of feel like the neighbors kind of show up anyways. You know what I mean? Now, if you invited, I, I really, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you.
What if you did an open house for the neighbors and you had it like the evening before and you just, without the, hosted something that way, because you're already gonna have people traipsing in and out.
Does that mess with any RESPA things or anything like that? I don't know.
The
A
if you
private
do,
showing, like
if
a private event?
yeah, number one, it'd have to be active. It couldn't be coming soon. Number
Right.
two, if you're under contract, then you're not going to get people wanting to see the house. And if you're under contract, you've got that relationship that the house is being sold. You were successful at listing it. You're under contract, and it's a more positive environment that what's happening with their neighbor, the seller. So I would prefer
Yeah.
to wait until after they're under contract.
That's not a bad idea. And if you could do it beforehand, like the night before, like is that Sheila, I think. I mean, I think that's a great idea too. I just don't know I don't know how private events with open houses, you know what I mean? I don't know how that works as far as what you're allowed to do.
if you did an open house, then you can't stop people from coming in.
Yeah, but that's got to be open to everybody. You know what I mean? I don't know about private ones. I just don't know. That's all.
Yeah, that's why I think if you wait until you're under contract, which is what everyone I've talked to said, that you can limit the number of people that you invite. And the seller can pinpoint who they want to invite.
I think that's a great listing strategy for sure. I mean, you talk to people that own homes, maybe then conversations come, well, we didn't talk to our neighbor, like what happened with them, and who knows? I mean, who knows what conversations come up, but either way, I think inviting neighbors is definitely any way to make more contacts is a great idea. And it's homeowners, because you're inviting them.
Well, and if you're doing it after the sale, then you can really.
Invite whoever. Sorry.
Yep.
If you do it after it's sold, then you can really like toot your own horn, because you can, say, look, I got this sold, da, 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 da.
Do you mean sold as in it's under contract and they haven't closed yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There is a gentleman in California, granted they have nicer weather than we normally do, that he does an open house and he grills hot dogs and hamburgers out in the backyard or in the driveway behind the house, has garage door open. And when people ring, he just says, come on in, how do you want your hamburger, or how many hot dogs do you want? They don't have kids and you can't eat in the house, but he has a following of, like, last I heard was about 85 people that follow him on open houses. It's not always the same 85, but he's got this reputation that you need to go to his open house. Now, when he has nice open houses, he's got a nice house to list, and he gets to know 85 people every time he has an open house. A little bit different than this. I think it's worth a try. It's like nothing ventured, nothing gained. I wouldn't want to have, because one of the guys said, well, he does a catering in the house for the two people that sell in the house, plus their favorite couple, 2 people. It's like, well, that's sort of limiting. Number one, I wouldn't want to put the seller on the spot that he or she could only invite 2 people. It's like, why not try to invite 12 and try to get 12 people there and have a relationship with those 12. So that's sort of easy to do. It could be gutsy. It could be trying to find 12 people that would come. Hopefully if you invite 12, at least 6 will show up. So
well, sorry, and with the cookout, the neighbors will smell it. You know? Like,
Neighbors
oh,
will stop, and you might get unwanted, uninvited people.
yeah. I was
But
walking yesterday and smelled a cookout, and I was like, I just wanted to yell, "Who's having the cookout? Do you have room for me?" Smelled so good. We were just walking the dogs. I was like, I just want to yell, "Who's having the cookout?" But
and I never ask, what do you do with that? People just show up that's not invited, because it's sort of tough to be rude and say, you're not invited, please go away. But you just have to play it by ear. I guess if you invite 12 and you get 12 RSVPs, you have enough food for 20, just in case extra people show up or people starve themselves all day to pig out.
right.
Okay, so that's one. Anything else on this when a seller's selling? Okay, so let's reverse the role. So when you have your buyer that moves in, you do something similar, except you're going to open it up to the immediate neighborhood. You're not going to invite your 12 best friends. You're going to send out an invitation to the neighbors on the street, maybe a block area, a 2-block area. So you invite the neighbors. Number one, that gets neighbors talking with neighbors, gets your client that just moved in to be introduced and meet all the neighbors around where they live. Plus, it gives you an opportunity to meet some people on a friendly basis at a cookout that you wouldn't meet otherwise. So that's
Yeah.
totally role reversal from trying to control a crowd of 12 to open it up to neighbors, and you just hope like heck that nothing goes amiss. You can't control the kids that way. It's tough to control the pets, but you have it outside in a driveway, in a backyard, and try to limit any traffic inside the house. What do you think about that? Again, you get your title company and lender to help cough up some of the expenses, if not all.
I think the buyers are overwhelmed. Like if someone told me that they wanted to host a party in my house or in my driveway or in my garage, even if it's after a week, 2 weeks after moving in, I think I would just say, no, thank you. I'm still running to Lowe's every other day to get stuff.
Okay. This
That's very true. I agree with that.
would you not think this would be a night that you could just relax and not fret about unpacking and putting things away, that you could just relax and meet the neighbors and have a dinner?
It would be hard for me.
I mean, if you have a buyer that's willing to do that, for sure. I mean, it's a great idea. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Because I mean, we talk about, well, when's the right time to ask for a review? And that's hard to ask because it's like, well, when do you ask? Because they're so overwhelmed when they first move in. And it goes on for, it doesn't just go away after the first week.
Yeah. I know some people try to ask for a review at the closing table. I don't think I've ever done that. I will wait maybe a month before I ask for the review to give them a chance to do whatever it is. It also depends on how fast they're moving. If it's a delayed move or where they're moving to.
Yeah.
Like my last 2 clients moved out of state, so I wasn't going to Minnesota and I wasn't going to Kentucky.
Yeah, oh shoot, never mind. I lost my train of thought. My dog started barking. I don't know why I did, but I was thinking also, oh, that's what it is. And if you have a buyer that's willing to do that, that's a good way to get in front of possible listings, getting the neighbors over there. I mean, that's a great idea if the buyer's willing, because all they saw the whole time was the listing agent on the front lawn. And then now you can kind of come in and introduce yourself and talk to the neighbors and say, hey, I help sell this place. So therefore, I know I can bring clients in, when you're ready to sell. It's a really easy conversation, icebreaker type thing. And then food and everything. I think it's a great idea as far as the buyer is concerned, for sure.
Yeah.
But you got to find one that's willing, because they
Yeah.
will be overwhelmed. I mean, absolutely. I do want to chime in on the review too. I like to wait a little bit, just because I think I me personally, I shine more right after the sale, because I really kick into that next gear of what they need to get settled. And
Yeah.
I want them to see that before I ask for a review. That's just my 2 cents.
Yep.
I usually wait like a month or so. So,
Yep. And what I meant by the buyer is when the buyer moves into their new house.
right.
Yeah, so that, okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what I meant too.
Yeah,
Did
okay.
I might
All
have
right.
said it weird or
I
something.
just want to make sure.
Yeah, so like after they've already bought and everything, then you say, hey, I'll bring, the food. Let's have a cookout. We'll meet your neighbors, and then maybe even with the lender, they could even give you like some door hangers, like, hey, come meet your new neighbor. Realtors having a cookout, just around like the immediate area. You'd only need like, I mean, not that many of them, or whatever. Um, so I think I really think that's actually pretty smart, in my opinion. But I'm gonna try to do it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I already talked to my lender about this and he's on board. Haven't talked to Vault, but Carly is normally not one to say no. And especially if it's something exciting like this, something new,
Yeah.
she's usually pretty good at trying it. Okay, there's going to be 4 items tonight. The third item, we talked about geo-farming, and what's part of our issues about why geo-farming is hard, what makes it difficult, and what do we lack when we try to do geo-farming in our neighborhood?
Well, geofarming takes time. So it can add up and be expensive eventually. Especially if you're doing, EDMs or anything like that. I mean, it's relatively cheap, but you got to do it consistently over time. That's what I run into. I do a lot of walking the neighborhood, with door hangers, and for me, it's a time thing. I'm not gonna front. It's completely on me. But it takes time to walk around a neighborhood and put door hangers on there. And I try to hire the neighborhood kids, and they're hit or miss. So if I get a neighborhood kid, it's great, but if I don't, I mean, that's potentially a 2 hour walk, in the day. And I'm still working, it's just time management for me, is a big thing. And sometimes the expense can get up there, for the consistency. That's my only 2 things. And it just takes time to even get sales out of geo-farming. A lot of times, but I don't know. I mean, that's the only pushback I get with geo-farming, as far as, I don't know. I'll probably think of more stuff as more people share, but
Well, it's hard to attribute any like pass along. Because it's like, okay, well, maybe someone is not, the person that received it isn't your seller or buyer, but eventually you make a connection with someone else. Are you able to attribute it back to the geo-farming effort?
Yes, I see. When people ask me about my return on investment in my geo-farming, I have no idea which one of the 17 things I've done in the past 3 years was the reason that they let me list their house.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
yes.
And when you ask them, they say, I usually get, what, you live in the neighborhood and you know the area.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, that doesn't address any of the 17. Okay, go ahead.
I haven't gotten any response out of mine, so, and I've been doing it for 7 months now. And it's funny, because I don't even know that, like, I did one where meet me at the coffee shop and you'll get a free cookie. It was on Valentine's Day. And I'll do a free, home analysis for
Right.
you. No one showed up.
Hmm.
I got to meet one person with bad credit and I got to talk to him about, how, there's people out there that would help them, and to talk to mortgage, to talk to Kyle so that he could give him some thoughts on how far off his credit score is. But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it, perfectly honest, I did it consistently for probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. But I have not been doing it consistently. But the only thing I've really gotten back is, I mean, just a couple home evaluations. Just literally, that's one of the things I bring up. Like, hey, I live in the neighborhood. If you want to know how much your home is worth right now, I'll do that for free. And then I put together a file for them real quick, drop it off, and I've done that for a couple homes now. But they're not, they still live there, so. So, there's that. But I do get some traction. I remember not this previous Halloween, but the Halloween before, somebody came by and they're like, oh yeah, I still have your magnet on my fridge, and I'm like, that's great, but so I mean, I know there's traction there, but just it hasn't amounted to anything. So it's hard to stay motivated. That's one of the, you know what? Honestly, that's the truth of the matter is it's hard to stay motivated on geofarming because it takes so much time for it to develop anything.
Yeah, I think the other thing is too, that it's so top of funnel. So it is kind of building your name and, brand awareness. So it's very hard to track it back. And you're right, it's hard to be motivated when you can't say, oh, I did X and got Y. Because if you could, then you'd be walking those 2 hours every month.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Do you answer questions and post stuff on the neighborhood Facebook page or next door about here's last month's sale, or here's this weekend's open houses or something like that?
I've brought this up before. There's 4 neighborhood pages. There's a home and garden one. There's just the neighborhood. There's the township. Like there's like 4 different Facebook pages, and they're very, very, all of them say no advertising.
Well,
So
posting last month's sales is not advertising.
no, yeah, but I just I don't know. I mean, that's still self promote. I don't know. I don't know. When they do that, I'm very hesitant to post on it, period. What do you usually do when you do run into those where they say no advertising, no whatever, no.
I always wait till they tell me that I'm not allowed to advertise on their Facebook page.
So you just do it until they tell you stop?
Yes, but number one, that in our neighborhood, our 1, 2, 3 neighborhoods, right? And connecting one another, I run all 3 of them. So no one's ever told me I posted something inappropriate.
Right.
But I've never had anyone say, really, there's not a lot of real estate content posted on our Facebook page or on Nextdoor. Nextdoor has turned out to be far 20 times worse than Facebook, in my opinion. But I usually post content, whether it's helpful household hints, stuff about the car, stuff about the community, stuff about real estate. I rarely ask them if they would like for me to do a CMA or anything like that. I've yet to really ask them that information unless it's in a list report that it's embedded in that cartoon and then that might ask them for a call to action. But otherwise, I don't ask them for a call to action. I just try to post content and with red one and my name and telephone number somewhere on that page, on that post.
So in our neighborhood, there is a guy that is not a realtor who posts all the sales, and he does a really good job. So I'm like, you know what, buddy, you go for it. So that's our township one. But then we live on a cul-de-sac, so I developed one that's just for the neighborhood. And I will post interesting things about the homes that are going on the market, or if they go under contract or something in that. And then I just put, you know, for compliance purposes, on my first one, I said, for compliance purposes, I have to, anytime I talk about real estate, I have to put my broker's name. And so I just put that down at the end after I comment anything. And that's good because it's really a tight knit group, but there's, like I said, about 20 homes. And so again, it just kind of keeps me, it's their expert.
Yep, no, I get it. It's a good plan, and it's tough to get lots of success when there's only 20.
Well, and I don't think any of us are moving anytime soon. But maybe they'll tell their friends.
So I found, and this has been around a while, Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. I used to use, up until 2 weeks ago, I used Ben Verified to try to find telephone numbers and email addresses in my neighborhood. Well, that takes forever because you're doing them one at a time, and I just trying to drill down and be as accurate as possible. So Fiverr, I just sent, I have a list of 406 and 506 and then 462 that 2 different Fiverr people is giving me emails and telephone numbers of that group. And so then I did it, and I haven't received them back yet. It's only been a few days, and I sent them I asked for a quote for 1,523, which is a VA list that I'm getting ready to email, and I think that cost me $76. So people I've talked to that have done this, they said, please expect a 60% positive rate of correct email and correct telephone number. I said, if I can get 60% out of 1,500, that's 900. I'll take that any day of the week, and I'll be happy to pay twice $76 for if I can get 900 valid emails from this group.
How do you get around the canned spam? Because they haven't opted in.
Because what I do is, and the second part of this is I do an unsolicited CMA one at a time, and I create it, and it's less than 8 minutes long, and I send it to someone in our neighborhood, and the CMA is like a picture, and I'll go over this shortly, a picture of the house, a picture of the map of with all the dots of things that have coming soon, active, in contract, and sold. And then I do 12 months, and then sometimes 6 or 3 months. And then I do a CMA based on whoever's house I'm sending it to. So if they're a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1,700 square feet, I try to do a CMA based on that information. And then I do a net to seller that Vault has on their webpage. I send it out to them, and there's nothing to indicate that I'm asking them to do anything. It's just content. And of all the people I talked with that do this, and granted they were all outside of Ohio, but they said they've never had a complaint from anyone that because they were given content, it was not a call to action. It was not a call to call me if you wanted me to do a walkthrough. And there was a couple of people said that they did put that in their spiel that if you want me to do to come and do a 5-minute walk through your house and give you a more accurate CMA, I'll do that. But I don't say that. I just say, if you have any questions, give me a call. And in 18 months, if you remember that, hey, I wonder what my house is what it's worth, and you remember, hey, Mark sent this to me, last year, you could go pull up the email and then you can look at what was the story 18 months ago or however long it's been. So far I've done 3 weeks. I think I'm at least 6 behind. It takes a half hour for me to create one, and it takes me 8 minutes to do the actual verbiage. And I go through that, but no one's complained. I'll take that back. I had one complaint. I put the wrong picture of this lady's house. She got mad at me. And
At least she read it.
she read it. She thanked me for the information. She goes, "How did you get the wrong house?" And I know this lady, and she knows me. We've talked for 5 years about her selling and buying, and of all the things that I couldn't believe that she got so upset over our 7 years of friendship that went up and down and all around, but it did. So I use it for that. And plus, we just had our HOA annual meeting, one for the master HOA, one for our sub HOA. So I mailed out blind copy. Now might be this spam, but by street, I put it, the emails I had for those people living on that street, I put it in blind copy and I sent out, here's who was elected or here's our current board members for the master HOA and the sub HOA. Here's the telephone number and an email address of the property management should you need to contact them. And that was it. I didn't talk about real estate. I think I went under my personal email, and not that they don't know I'm a realtor, but I did it that way. And I never had a single complaint. So I don't remember anyone. I don't know if I could tell if they blocked me or not, but I do have on my email when they read it, I get an email back that they've opened or whatever. But so far, I haven't had any issues. So how I do the CM? Any questions on? So that was the lead up to doing the CMAs, and this is how I sort of do it. I try to do. I'm sorry. Okay.
You can keep talking.
So I use this map, and somewhere I typed in an address. Oh, maybe it kicked me out. So I try to do Google Earth, because when you type in an address and then you hit click for it to go to that house, it does a twirl and it catches the people's attention that they see this twirl, and it comes and then their house shows up, and that keeps them engaged in the video at least for a while, because they've seen this twirl, they've seen the neighborhood, and now they see their house. So I do this like everyone does. This is the neighborhood. These are 4 neighborhoods. This is Hayden Farms. This is Village of Hayden Crossing North, where I live. This is the Falls of Hayden Run, and this is the Village Hayden Crossing South. This is a small area. So they have a private Facebook page, so I can't get into that, but I can get into the other 3. So I show them this is what has happened in the past year. I go to the list and I make sure that I have the newest one first. Oh, it's 146. Okay. So I go through newest one first. Obviously, that means it's going to be the active and the under contract. And I talk about, let's look at everyone always wants to know the days on the market, how fast or how homes selling. So I go through here, and I'll usually pick on a couple that I know that took a while, and I try to explain why they might have taken a while without squealing on a realtor of how they screwed it up. But I just say, these are some of the things that can happen. Talk about all the ones that went under 10 days. So I try to do a comparison. And then I said, next thing, everyone wants to know, if you list it for 300,000, do you actually get 300, or does it go higher or lower? So I go through a few to look at what the list price was, what was the sold price. So I go through it, goes, okay, this one went up $21,000 over list. That's really great. This one was dead on center. This one was $500 less. So I just go through a few of those. So then I go back to edit. I take this down to, and I've already done this, so I know that if I can go 3 months, I'm going to have some activity. 6, 7, 8, 9. Today's the 16th. So this is 3 months out. So I go back to the list and I try to show them, here's the list of the last 3 months. So this is pretty current, and this will give a better indication of the price. The reason I leave the active and the under contract here is because I use it to set a trend. Because if the active and the under contract is higher, then that's an indication that the market is still growing, increasing, and the numbers are going to go up. If it's about the same, or you notice that the numbers are lower than what's been sold, then you gotta think about, well, did the listing agent think that the market has turned in the neighborhood and that's why they went under, or did they just do it as a ploy to try to get a bidding war going on? So I sort of go through that quickly. And then the last thing I do, which I didn't do for this example, is I will pick 3 houses based on the criteria of that house that's sold in the last 3 months, and I'll do a CMA on those 3. And oh no, it's right here. I didn't do a CMA. I forgot. Right there. So here's the CMA on that whole list. So I usually only have 3 here, and I screwed up. That was my fault. I got delayed on the way into preparing for my meeting, and so it's a process. So I go from the list to 3 months to a CMA, which I've already created because I already put the X marks in my list over here. So I've already got my X's here on the 3 homes that I'm going to use for my CMA, and I've got it already plugged in. And then I just hit CMA, and it comes up with my CMA numbers. And then the last thing I do.
In your CMA, you just do the statistical one?
Yes. Because I'm trying to keep this under 8 minutes, so I just do the one-liner and go through, and it makes it quick. And then I go to vault title, and I already have this completed. And I go through this. I tell them, it's their address, Franklin County, their name. I said, I'm giving you 3 estimates for sales price, 350, 375, 400. And I said, the reason I don't have a mortgage here, because some people pay cash, some people pay their mortgage off early, some people refinance, some people have a second mortgage, third mortgage. I don't know. So you know that number, I don't. So here's the commission. I'm sure you've read all kinds of things about commissions in the newspaper and the local news. I've been in this business for 15 years, and for 15 years, I've always negotiated my commission rate. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 5,000, sometimes it's 2,000. It just depends on what's going on. I also didn't put down your HOA. Your HOA, long time ago, was charging $90 for a transfer fee. 2 years ago, they were $900, just over $900. So no matter, so not knowing what they're doing today, I didn't put down a list. But this is some of the closing costs, some of the fees that you'll be paying at the time of closing. So your semi-annual taxes, $2,500, pretty standard. I always have to pick a month and date. So I picked August 1st for a closing date all the way across the board. And it tells you what our prorated taxes you have to bring up to date, because in Ohio, we pay taxes in arrears. So you have to bring it up current to the date of the sale. This is how much you would have to pay in taxes. Come down to the bottom line. Here you would net 326, here's 349, and here's 373 based on these 3 purchase prices up here, not counting whatever mortgage you might have in any HOA transfer fee. I said, thanks for listening, or something like that, and then I'm done. And I don't, unless I know I really screwed it up, I don't do edits. I just, when it gets to the point under Screencastify, I can hit the link and put it on the, in an email and I send it off to them. Goes to one person. And that takes me 30 minutes to create, 8 minutes to do the videotape or less. My goal was 5. I don't think I can do it in 5 minutes, but I try to give too much information. So I use the email addresses I got from Ben Verify. Now I'm going to use what I get from Fiverr and do this even more. Then I'm probably going to increase it to maybe 4 times a day if I'm not doing anything else, and try to use the same scenario. Like if we have houses that are 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and 1,700 square feet, if there's enough of those, I can do them all in a string. That way I don't have to recreate everything from scratch. I can just duplicate or just change the address and create them back to back. Same way, it's like a one floor plan. We have some for 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and 1,197 square feet. There's a dozen of those, so I could do those. And it doesn't matter whether they've lived in a house for 15 years or 2 months. I don't know if I do it for 2 months, but you could just do it and send it out, because I'm not asking them to do anything. I'm just giving them content. I'm giving them information. And so far I haven't had any issues. So that is free.
Quick question. So when you're doing the net to seller, if you didn't show, could you scroll up just a smidge?
Sure.
So in your example where you were talking about doing it, you know, all the similar ones, you wouldn't even have to show the seller info, and you could just start with the sales detail.
Yes, but I try to personalize it.
Mhm.
So that's why I always put their address and their first names, sometimes their last names too, just so that it's personal to them. That way, if they print it, save it, they know that I know who they are. I don't know.
Mhm.
I just think trying to personalize it helps a little bit.
Yeah,
And that's why I try to do the picture up front. So I got a picture of their house.
yeah.
And it could be from the county commission or from the Franklin County auditor's picture. It could be from a previous listing, or it could be a Google or a
Yeah.
Zillow picture. I'm just looking for a picture. And now I learn I'm going to have to make sure so this is free. Doesn't cost anything. Takes me a half an hour to do one. And I'm not done 2 back to back like I wanted to do, but it's a way to do geo-farming in our neighborhood. I've sent it to some people that I don't know, or maybe don't know me. And the first week I did to people that I know, because I wanted to test it out. Like if my friends chastise me, I know this is a bad idea, but friends didn't chastise me. Any questions on this? Trying to do stuff that's easy, simple, and as free as possible. And if I can get those 1,500 names for $76, I'll take that in a heartbeat. 900 valid names will keep me busy for a long time. She does a really good job when she does one with puppies, and those are super dynamic.
So what about, so you use, most of what the customer is seeing is the video of your screen. What's happening on your screen?
Yeah, everything I
Do
showed.
you hear you talking? Is your voice, or is your
Yes.
face down in the corner?
Yes, my picture is down it's either in the lower right-hand corner or I move it up to the lower left-hand corner, depending on which screen I'm on.
Okay.
I haven't, everyone else I've looked at, they always have it in the lower right-hand corner, but sometimes we have information down there, so I move it up.
Okay.
But I always have my face there somewhere. It's minimized.
And then what do you say text-wise in your email? Watch this video, you'll love it.
I do something not quite like that.
That doesn't sound very Mark like.
No, it's not me. Here's some information about the real estate in our neighborhood and your home. Something as simple as that. I try to keep it simple. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be intrusive. Just, like, and they know, the people that know me and read Facebook and Nextdoor, they know that I post content about sales and open houses and stuff on already. This is just more individual